Hey everybody, Coach Lee here. Today we're going to talk about all things pain, particularly FTP intervals. I had an athlete who just rocked out a great workout, a banner workout, a crucial workout, a workout that tells us a lot about his state of fitness, about where he is going to be for race day. So I really love to dig into this type of workout really deep for my athletes because it is a banner workout. Again, Coach Lee here, licensed cycling coach and certified nutritionist. If you're looking for any help on the bike, if you're looking for consulting, if you're just looking for help in nutrition and you're not looking for a cycling coach, reach out to me. Would love to talk to you. Okay, so the workout for this day, for this particular athlete, was 4x12 at FTP. Now, whenever you get an FTP interval, especially you're doing the repeats, 4x12, 4x12 minutes, they can get pretty difficult. They can get pretty difficult pretty fast, and they are pain. But why is he doing these FTP intervals now? These FTP intervals just don't come out of anywhere. It's not just spring, so we're doing FTP intervals. These intervals come at a very specific time for a very specific event. So let's look at how this athlete got here. All right, so here is his this is his base period. So my athlete, this particular athlete, had to peak for an earlier event than most. So he has done 4 months of base period and he is running towards his event. We're doing 2 months of build leading into his key event. And as we can see, for me as a coach, this is absolutely 100% perfect. We have very little time in zone 1. Most of our time, 110 hours, was in zone 2, followed by tempo, threshold VO2, and this is just testing. I have my athletes during their base period do some VO2 work about every 14, 15 workouts. We do a crusher VO2 just to remember what it's all about. But when we look at his accumulated time, this is a time in zones of a professional racer, right? So this is what a professional time is. If we look at the year time in zones where they're accumulating their power for a professional racer, about 90% of their total time is zone 1, zone 2, zone 3, with zone 2 being the most of their time in zones for the entire year. And when I get a new athlete, this is one of the biggest things, the biggest no, I wouldn't say challenge, but this is, one of the biggest learning curves that a new athlete to me has to come on, because to get better at cycling, it's not just going jamming. It is a very slow progression with most of your time actually being in zone 2. This is endurance sports. This is how endurance sports are run. If you're a runner, if you're a swimmer, a rower, this is the pattern for endurance sports. It has to do with the physiology of the human body. The problem is that, ever since the 1970s here in America, it's been just crammed down our throats from the time that we're born. No pain, no gain. No pain, no gain. And, I'll have athletes come to me and they're just hammering every single workout with the belief that that's going to make them better. And they actually come to me looking for the secret workout to get them better, to take them to the next level. And I'm just honest. There are no secret workouts. There are no secret plans. The answer for endurance sports, to get good at endurance sports, is about 90% of your collective time throughout the year, time in zones to be zone 1, 2, and 3. That's how you get good. Endurance is an aerobic sport. And if you're just out there hammering, you're not giving your body enough time to recover. You're not giving your body enough time to adapt to the fatigue that you generate. So this particular athlete, he's been with me for a couple seasons now. He has actually, this is that 4-month base period is the most important training of the entire year. So we brought his FTP up, and now for the rest of this year, we're just going to roll with it. He's got a lot of races on the schedule. We'll take some time off in June or July. Then we'll bring him back up for a big fall blockbuster peak with an older client. Say, people in their 40s and 50s, it's harder to nail that second peak. But if you give me, no matter what your age, you give me 4 months to build you up, to layer up your endurance, to layer up your tempo work, to layer up your FTP work, boom, I'm going to get you dialed in. Now, where is this athlete? So he's done with his base period. We have a race coming up. We have enough time to do a 2-month build into that. Now, when we look at the build, depending on what you want to do, this is where you really specialize as an athlete. So this particular athlete is a time trialist, and his time trials are of the duration that he's mostly going to be at FTP for his events. So we just roll with that. That's his build. So every peak to event, every 8 weeks to peak is going to look different for different athletes. If you're a crit racer, your 8 weeks before your banner event, your peak event, is going to look different than if you're a time trialist, than if you're the guy going for, the 100-mile road race, okay? So every peak looks different depending on your event, and that's individualized coaching, and that's what we're going to do. Now, let's look at the workout itself. So it's 4x12 at FTP. He actually went out and did a lot of extra zone 2. So he was out there for 2 hours, 44 minutes. He got in 48 miles. He had a rate of proceed effort of 10. He had a TSS for this, a big whopping 163, average watts 228, which is for this type of workout kind of meaningless, and an intensity factor. Again, since he had so much zone 2 work, that's kind of meaningless. Now, this is important because this is following, 4 months of base. We took some time off, and now we're in this build period. He is an older client, age 62. So my older clients, if I'm going to take them above 100 for CTL, then I'm going to nail, it is possible, but we're going to bring that up slowly over time. We're going to progress that CDL over a period of months, okay? And then, rolling into this workout, he had a training stress balance of -6. Now, his CTL during this base period rolling into his peak event will actually come down, and he'll probably actually his race day CTL might be something like, 80, 79, something like that. And he will be just perfect. Now, why do I like these FTP intervals so much for him? Now, remember, he is a time trialist. And so understanding where he's at FTP is crucial. And these are some of his first FTP intervals. Now, earlier in the week, he did a 3x18 at FTP. So this is actually his second FTP workout of the week, and we're not going to have him do any more FTP work this week. Just 2 is fine. And so he nailed 3x18 on Monday. This is Wednesday, 4x12. Now, why do I love these FTP intervals for him? So basically, when we think about FTP, there's 3 ways to build FTP. We can push it up from the bottom, which he's been doing for the last 4 months. We can extend it out, and we can pull it up. When we think about, the FTP intervals, we're working at FTP. We're working that zone, and and for these particular week, we're looking to make his FTP longer, right? And that's a whole lecture in and of itself, and that, just because, what your FTP says for, say, a 20-minute interval or however you test, that doesn't mean that you can go out there and do it for about an hour, okay? It's like the definition that everybody talks about is somewhere between 35 to 70 minutes. Well, we want to increase his time because some of his his time trials that he's going to be doing are straight up going to be an hour, right? He's going to be doing everything he can to break that hour, like at a 55 minutes. So it's very important to spend time at FTP, which is what we're doing. Now, what I love about this, again, these FTP intervals just don't come out of anywhere. They come after a 4-month steady progression. We're building up to it. I gave my athlete every chance of success at these FTP intervals. And, I wanted him to crush him, and crush he did. And so why do I love these FTP intervals where, we're still have time to his A event, but like, Andy Coggins said, the best predictor of performance is performance itself. And so for these particular intervals, we want him at this time of year to be as race specific as possible, to be doing his FTP test on a route as similar as possible to his actual race, which he did. So he's nailing all of this on a very flat route, which is going to be very similar to his TT work. Now, first thing I look at is athlete comments whenever I go through a workout. The second and fourth intervals were hard. I was biking against some very strong headwinds. It felt like my tires were completely flat. I was glad I was able to do 45 minutes of extra, and that extra was zone 2 work. So here we go. Again, he is a 62-year-old male. He's been with me a couple years. We've had a couple of setbacks, but his dedication to a super clean diet, to a super sleep regime, to a great 24/7 process. I mean, so he's rocking out his 60s. Okay. So it's just an amazing athlete, and he has done so much work to stay healthy and to give his body all that it needs to deal with the effort. So the first one we have 291 watts, 291 watts again for the second one, 292 watts, and for the fourth one, 286 watts. Now, remember, when I'm zone training, right? We're not trying to hit bullseyes with all of this work, right? We want to train zones. So if he hits the dartboard, I'm super happy. But in this case, he had 4 outdoor efforts on race-specific terrain that he absolutely nailed. I mean, he just did fantastic work. And here's another way that I like to look at this. So here I'm combining all 4 intervals, and I want to see their power trend line. So here's the beginning of the interval. Here's the end of the interval. These are all 4 intervals combined, and we can see how they separate right here. But we can see his pacing for all 4 intervals was absolutely brilliant. He nailed his repetition. And so if we look at here, once again, he nailed his repetition. He just didn't do 2 strong ones and then die 3 and 4, or just completely die on the 4th one. He nailed all 4. And as anybody that works with me, I really grind, don't go out too hard. Don't go out too hard. I drill that message in everybody. He doesn't go out too hard and slowly raises his watts, staying in his FTP zone for all 4 intervals. Absolutely beautiful work. And again, if you're a new athlete to me, we have lots of practice. We dial this in, we talk about it, we look at your pacing, we look at how you do it. So again, as a coach, I gave this athlete all the tools that he needed to nail this workout and to nail his events. And he took those tools and ran with them. Now, I love this heart rate. So here's the first interval. Here's the first 12-minute interval, right? So we have his accumulated time, and heart rate is mostly at tempo. Now let's look at the second interval. We're bringing in some threshold for the second 12-minute interval. And now if we look at the third interval, boom, threshold, boom, threshold once again. But what I love is that, for that first effort, he is just tempo. And it shows a lot of fitness that he has right now to be able to nail these in the way that he does. And we introduce that fatigue to the cardiovascular system on that 4th interval. and he absolutely nails it. And the last thing that I look at is I'm always looking at cadence. So there is a concept called, cadence at FTP. So we can go back and look at, like, say, your last 10 FTP tests, and we can get an example or an idea of what is your ideal cadence at FTP. Now, anybody that knows me has a plan that goes through those 4 months. We're going to have tons of cadence development. We're going to be doing slow cadence, high cadence, grind, stomps. We're going to be doing tons of stuff with our cadence in those 4 months. And this guy, this athlete just rocked it out. His cadence, which is, as you get into your 50s and 60s, all your cadence starts to slow down. I do everything with my athletes to fight it, but it does slow down. And so his cadence for his FTP efforts, and when I go to look at his race data from last year, and when I'm going to look at his race data at the end of this year, we can predict that he is going to be around the mid 80s for his workout. All right, so that's 4x12 at FTP, 4x12 at pain. I hope that that helps. Get out there and drill it, everybody.